Jai Mohanji, welcome to a reading of the Guru Leela book, experiences that are shared by millions of followers from all over the world. Now, today is India celebrates its Republic Day. So those of you out there, all the Indians, a happy Republic Day to all of you. And a very warm welcome to all of you who are watching me live now on MAI YouTube page, and to those of you who also will be watching it later. Today, my name is Rekha Murli, and today I'm going to be reading from Guru Leela Book 3, Volume 3, which is titled Grace That Heals. This book particularly has many Maitri testimonials. As you know, the Maitri method followed by about 400 practitioners of the Mohanji family globally, are there to help heal people in all aspects, which is the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual levels. So, here are some stories, and today I'm going to read to you a lovely story by Kathy Johnston from the UK. It's titled Divine Call of Nature. Having gone through 30 years of various gynecological procedures and subsequent total hysterectomy about 10 years ago, following the respective births of my two giant-sized babies, 10 pounds each, I had become used to living under the governance of my ever-increasing bladder alerts. Wherever I traveled, I would automatically, mentally calculate my liquid intake and the very real prospect of a cross-legged stagger to the nearest bush in the face of a commonplace lack of public conveniences. Most often, my decision was a toss-up between remaining hydrated and taking the risk, or deciding to dehydrate to avoid a crisis. The latter usually prevailed. Daytimes weren't the only problem. This was a 24/7 vigil with sleep disturbances a normal for me. Aeroplane and coach journeys were the things of nightmares. Careful consideration and planning beforehand were extremely necessary for me. When the opportunity to attend Mohanji's Serbian retreat in October 2019 came up, the first consideration that came to mind were all of the above. A couple of months before the planning of the travel for the retreat, I had had the dawning that my next birthday would be the big 60. I had then decided once and for all that the time was right to get my problem sorted before I began my sixth decade and duly made an appointment to visit a female gynecologist in Manchester. Unsurprisingly, it was confirmed that I had a prolapsed bladder and required one or two surgeries. Another appointment for the investigation to decide which one of the two operations I needed was planned for the Wednesday after I would arrive home from Mohanji's Serbian retreat. I have to admit I was sorely tempted not to attend with the thought of flying 2 hours to Zurich, followed by a 5-hour coach ride. Did it have an onboard loo? Was too much to contemplate. I was traveling with my younger son via a stopover with him in Switzerland, and who, by sheer and ruthless pester power and a lack of real empathy or knowledge about the debilitating and restrictive condition I lived with, convinced me there would be a loo on board the coach and that all would be well. Mentally, I decided I'd abstain from all liquid refreshments and be prepared to arrive at the retreat feeling like a prude. I could rehydrate in the comfort of my room with my lovely private ensuite. Just as well I'd planned ahead as there wasn't a loo on board the coach. We did, however, stop halfway at a service where I made 3 trips to their ladies' room. Before booking, I had also noted the code of conduct sentence that prompted those who needed to leave the room regularly, speaking directly to me during satsang, would be best advised to sit at the rear of the hall to avoid interrupting Mohanji's flow, etc. The first satsang arrived. during our first evening together with around 200 other attendees. So I made sure I arrived early to pick my seat at the back, not wanting to have to elbow other light bladdered women out of the way. Incidentally, all of this particular retreat event's birds' language was entirely alien to me, not to my son, of course, who had occasionally uttered these Indian sounding words in my presence. So my expectations were basically zero. The evening of the first satsang arrived. Satsang, what does this mean? And I duly sat at the end of a back row seat. Unfortunately, as fate would have it, the blonde lady in front of me had rather big, fuzzy hair, and my views were so restricted that I found myself constantly bobbing up and down as I became more and more drawn to the truth this Mohanji person was speaking. I became very frustrated, also a little exhausted after such a long journey, but cannily spotted the next seat for the following day that I would nap. I would get there early once again to avoid any drama. The following day's satsang arrived with me smugly seated at the end of a curved middle row close to another exit door. I settled in and was so happy with my perfect view. I'd monitored my liquid intake and knew I could last about an hour before having to nip to the loo. About halfway through, my mind became distracted by my usual obsession as I wondered when a good time would be to duck out invisibly, not wanting to draw attention to myself or disrupt the flow. I was also beginning to cross my legs and, in all honesty, didn't want to miss a trick of what was going on. I was captivated by this person. He spoke to my own heart directly, speaking my truth and reassuring me about myself. I was transfixed and also uncomfortable with the increasing knowledge of an imminent dash becoming quite necessary. Suddenly, out of the blue, Mohanji stopped speaking and asked aloud, "Does somebody need to go to the toilet?" My heart stopped and skipped a beat as I shrank down in my seat and averted my gaze, praying to God no one would recognize my body language and realize it was me. God only knows how I managed to sit through the next half of the satsang, but I was puzzled. I wondered, did this person read my mind? How can this be? This has to be a coincidence. Blah blah. As I raced out at the end. At some stage later that day, we all toddled off for our conscious walking session in the glorious sunshine on the beautiful Serbian mountainside. Sitting quietly on a rocky outcrop at our mountaintop destination, my son and I were discussing the experience so far when I felt a gentle hand on my head as someone navigated the bumps of the hill around where we were sitting. I thought absolutely nothing of it and looked up and smiled at Mohanji as he gently ambled on with the group he was walking with. My son, looking wide eyed and directly at me, was gasping, Mom, Mohanji has just blessed you. Do you realize what this means? I was smiling, but really in total ignorance of the whole shaboodle so far. Nothing was normal to me. The whole experience so far was a million miles away from my everyday life. All of these people talking so freely about their emotions and problems, and this wonderfully wise guy walking casually amongst us all. I was trying really hard to process, but as the days wore on, my mind was becoming more and more mushed. I can't remember the exact sequence of events, but at some stage, we were informed that the timetable for the following day was to begin an hour earlier at 6 a.m. And we were to go directly to the dining hall to drink a liter and a half of water, followed by 12 almonds. Really, why would this be? How was I going to cope with the 2 hour yoga session afterwards? In truth, Yoga was the deciding factor for attending this retreat, and if it hadn't been on the agenda, I definitely could have resisted the power of pestering. I was genuinely distraught. My body was craving for some yoga, but I knew deep down that my whole week of yoga was in jeopardy with this ridiculous new instruction and the subsequent million dashes I would have to make during yoga in every session, disrupting the others, etc., and causing embarrassment to myself. Darn it. I felt that this week was going to be ruined for me and that I would return home as unfit as I had arrived. The first session of yoga following our new water and nut regime was amazing. Yoga, like I'd never experienced, and from the word go, we were totally immersed in the feelings within, starting with the gapless breathing, again, something new for me, followed by the traditional full body workout yoga session. I hadn't anticipated the overwhelming emotions at the commencement of Shavasana when a wonderful guitar sprang to life and the most mournful voice began to sing its tune. I was unsure if this was a live or recorded performance. I longed to know if it was live. Upon rousing, I saw it was the beautiful Natesh, but my tap set by this time was already on full flow and thankfully from my eyes. I couldn't control my sorrowful weeping and was very confused as to what was happening to me. Luckily, my son was there to console me, but I was growing more and more puzzled with all of these new sensations and feelings that were overwhelming me. The following day was almost the same, if not more tears, and it was only during the second half of the second day, during the afternoon, that it suddenly dawned on me that, hold on, what's going on here? I haven't been dashing out to the loo. This can't be right. I've seen so many people nipping in and out of the yoga sessions, and not once have I had to leave the room. This is bizarre. Maybe I've soaked up all the water because of the long dehydrating journey. I tried hard to fathom it all, and maybe after the third day, I began to mention this to some of the other women I had made friends with. Each one of them smiled knowingly, some even giggled, and I was dumbfounded. How could anyone heal someone else's bladder without surgery? What is happening to me? Who is this person? Words are so feeble a tool to try to convey the atmosphere during this event, and I kept thinking to myself, being here is believing. There are no words adequate enough to encapsulate the feelings and emotions bubbling up so frequently unannounced. More and more, I had the overwhelming feeling that I was witnessing something truly sacred and divine, and I felt genuinely humbled to be enveloped by the grace of this person and his beautifully natural and unassuming family. One particular word Mohanji used more often than any other tickled me and brought to mind a Beatles tune. All you need is love. It was Mohanji's pronunciation of the English word love that sounded like low, which made me smile every time he spoke it, and this tune became cemented on a permanent loop within my mind. I became convinced throughout the remainder of the retreat that I had been touched by the grace of God and had even had a flesh hug from the same. How could I possibly explain this to the people back home? Where would I begin to describe the goings on and wonderfulness of it all? I then began to dread the prospect of being without these people, this new spiritual family I had found. I also had the prospect of my second gynecological exploratory appointment looming on the Wednesday after my return home at the weekend. Would it be prudent to go along? Would this be an insult to Mohanji and maybe reverse my miracle cure? What was I to do? Who would know the answer? Would attending the second consultation back home cast doubt upon my faith? I was in a quandary, and towards the last day, I began to ask the advice of one or two people. My son was adamant and quite assertive in that I had to keep my faith and cancel the consultant's appointment. Someone else told me the answer was within me. Turmoil. The final evening dawned, and it was my time to have a one-to-one, 3 minutes with Mohanji. I was more troubled with thoughts about my elder son and his future life and the recent near fatal accident of my husband to think about using these precious moments to ask about my personal troubling decision. So I nervously blathered on to Mohanji about my husband and our life of striving together, ignoring the elephant in the room question. After Mohanji had delivered his reassurances regarding my spoken troubles, I thanked him. But just as I was about to open the door to leave him, I turned around and asked him outright, "Did you heal my bladder?" To which he responded in his gentle, half smiling way, "I'm always at work." Oh gosh, my journey homeward bound was to stay 2 nights with my son in Switzerland before flying back to the UK. During the first day out in Switzerland, I was dismayed to notice a slight return in my need to find the nearest ladies' room. And on my return to Geneva airport for my trip back to the UK, I glumly noticed the frequency was increasing. My 21:30 flight was delayed by 2 hours, which meant a dismal hanging around a half empty airport, and once past security, I found myself dashing towards the nearest loo. Typical of my pre-Mohanji cure, once inside the cubicle, I had a frantic dash to prevent an accident, and I felt utterly despondent and really confused as to all that had just occurred in the space of a week. Did my indecision to cancel my consultant's upcoming appointment reveal my lack of faith and put doubt into my mind regarding the healing? I was at a complete and utter loss, with no one to help or support me. So I looked up from the cubicle and asked Mohanji out loud, "Please, Mohanji, tell me what to do. Am I being punished for doubting or lacking in faith? And by keeping my appointment, will this undo all the work you have done? Please help me." I was feeling very sad and unhappy and so unsure of myself and the decision I had to make. As I walked towards the wash basin and pressed for the soap, I looked into the mirror and suddenly noted that the song coming from the piped music was none other than "All You Need Is Love." I literally laughed out loud and smiled at myself and spoke out loud to Mohanji in complete and utter thanks. My answer had arrived, and you'd known all along that I had had the tune in my head throughout the whole week. How funny. God has got a great sense of humor and does work in the most surprising ways. Needless to say, I duly cancelled my consultant's appointment for the Wednesday ahead and have never looked back or have had to keep my eyes peeled for the nearest convenience. Once again, words cannot begin to convey my gratitude for the whole surreal and ultimately humbling experience, but most of all, for my reintroduction to the God within. Mohanji. I'm smiling now, typing his name. The world will indeed be healed. All we need is love. To share my wonderful experiences with my nearest and dearest was really difficult, as I had anticipated. But the worst for me was not confiding in my mum. My mum is undeniably my best friend. She's clever, funny, has a wicked sense of humor, and has always shared my every significant moment. The opportunity arrived, and when she came for an extended visit last week, I bravely printed off my testimonial and handed it to her. Did I forget to say she's an atheist? I left the room to let her absorb the info and came back in, sat down beside her, looked her straight in the eye, and asked her, "What do you think, Mum?" She was very quiet, looked right into my eyes, and said, "It's very strange, but do you know something funny? My bladder problems have stopped too." I vaguely recall Henry, the younger son who dragged me to Serbia, mentioning the fact. Once we are blessed by Mohanji, then our whole family would be blessed too. So I sketchily mentioned this to my mum. She responded with a bewildered look in her eyes and an audible So I left it at that. Later on, yesterday, I heard from the lovely Owen, and after telling him the story, he explained the lineage facts, which became so much clearer to me, having had this whole experience, and my jaw literally dropped. My maternal grandmother had the same bladder issues, and so the story ends with my cure. I'm so giddy with this knowledge and living day proof from a hardwired skeptic too that I want to share it with the whole world. I was so happy going to bed last night and asked Mohanji if he could help me sleep without me having to take a melatonin, a long, boring story of years of debilitating insomnia and the wonderful melatonin solution I discovered this year. I boldly left the tablet to one side, knowing I would be heard by Mohanji. My husband followed me to bed and immediately about turned to sleep in the spare room when he heard my melodious snores. I had the most wonderful sleep and restful sleep since I can remember, and I can't wait to see if my mom did too. Thank you, Mohanji, for your care and connection with for us. I asked and you delivered, and my faith has been rewarded yet again. Please let your grace be available to everyone through the vehicles of us all. Jai Mohanji. Oh, thank you, Kathy Johnston. This is such a beautiful story. I couldn't help but keep smiling throughout. Isn't it, Malati? Wonderful story. Uh,
Wow. I enjoyed Rekha ji. Thank you.
yes, it is so beautiful. Imagine, what we think, nothing can be done. We need to see the doctor, this, that, and the other. And here comes our dear Mohanji, which he does what he has to do, and it's all gone. And she has written it so well, so well. Thank you so much, Kathy, if you're listening. And I'm surely going to text her and tell her how beautiful this testimonial was. So, in fact, I too had a miraculous. Today the book is on Guru Leela Book 3 Malati, and it's all about the Maitri miracles and healing that happens through Mohanji, directly by Mohanji himself or through the Maitri practitioners. So recently, I had a very nice story. I have this severe back pain, very debilitating back pain that it doesn't allow me to function properly. My upper back hurts a lot, and Mohanji had told me that I need to go in for some kind of a therapy, which I have not yet done due to various reasons of a lot of other things taking priority. And the last few days, it's been so painful. I mean, last 2 years, I would say it has been painful. But the last few days after my trip to Shirdi and back, it's been welcome, Rahul. Good to see you. It's been pretty painful. And what happened was, I was just asking my friend Melitza, what do you think this is? And she said this is all due to lineage karma. So, and then she was just giving me a few tips on, being healthy and exercising and walking and doing Nadi Shodhan and all that. So, and I have been doing the Maitri Gayatri daily since December. Yeah, since December. And so it was so beautiful. Suddenly, after speaking to her, and I had this one-on-one conversation with Mohanji's photo. I said, this pain is troubling me. It's not allowing me to function to my optimum and all that. And I just had this photo, I forgot about it. And then 3 days later, I realized that the pain had gone down substantially, that it was there, but not so painful that my focus was always on that. Even now, I do have that pain slightly, but it's not that so painful that, I'm constantly frowning or thinking about the pain or anything. Sometimes I just forget also that it's there. So this is the kind of healing that Mohanji does. It's so amazing. So I just thought I'll share it with you now since you are here with me. And welcome, Rahul. Good to see you also. So that was my story. In fact, I think I can read one more short story before we can wind up. Okay. So this story is A Friend for Life. This is written by a devotee from India. Although I know her and I've been closely associated with her, I know who this is. But a beautiful story. Very short one. I'll just read it to you. A Friend for Life by a Mohanji follower, a devotee from India. I'm a believer of karma and have always tried to do good and be good. Worshipping idols was something that came to me only as a ritual instilled by my family. I had never believed in the concept of a guru in human form, and I would like to attribute this belief to my childhood experiences of a human guru who was revered by my parents and many of our acquaintances. My parents could never convince me to revere him. By the grace of God, my instincts didn't fail me, and I did not have to experience what others did. The chapter closed when he left this earthly abode. My regards stay with him for sparing us. At the age of 44, I was caught in a whirlwind of depression attack, a very severe one at that. Frankly speaking, my husband and I were ignorant about the implications of depression, its cause and consequences, till my condition worsened so much that I had to be taken for a medical examination, and was diagnosed with depression. What caused it? I still don't know quite well. Maybe it was an amalgamation of hormonal imbalance, the stress of taking life too seriously, striving to be perfect, and more so, expecting others to be perfect. God has showered His grace on me many times, has bailed me out of many tough situations, and this time was no different. My then new neighbor and now a bosom friend, guide and mentor, had taken pity on my depressive state and had given Mohanji's iCard to me. I would have preferred to, but actually couldn't say no to an ardent request made by her to look into those eyes, courtesy my childhood experience, which I mentioned earlier. But when life shoves you into a ditch, whether you like it or not, you want to bounce out of it by any means. After I recovered, I was lucky to get a chance to meet him for the first time in 2015 in South India at a satsang. I cannot frame in words the overwhelming feeling of being in the presence of someone who I had not met before, not spoken to, yet something within was churning and swelling tears without any reason. I was warned by my friend that something like this may happen, and I had internally laughed it out. But I had wept so many tissues that day. It's been 4 years since grace started flowing through those eyes, and it continues. I started believing and revering Mohanji at the very instant I bounced back to life. But the mind was, as always, sowed a seed of doubt for me. It was really Mohanji or the medicines that worked. I even bothered him by asking, "How do I know who you are?" He had said, "You will know tonight." He came in my dream, showing his back to me like a dark silhouette, but showing me the face of Shirdi Sai Baba. I remember this so distinctly. Barely 6 months after having recovered from the first attack, I suffered another attack the following year. I had happened to meet Mohanji again at the end of the second depressive state. I had asked him, "Why again?" To which he replied, "You will get another attack next year." I was shattered to hear that. I had missed hearing the more important part, heard by the others in the room, that it would be and it would be my final clearing. And so it was. It came back again. It was mild, and I managed to do my daily chores with a certain amount of difficulty, but not like the previous two episodes, wherein I was left handicapped in all possible ways. Guru walks into one's life when the disciple is ready and needs him the most. So I have read in Mohanji's blogs. This holds so true in my case and to many others who have known Mohanji. Many address him as father. but he has been like a friend to me, joking, cajoling, and explaining life like a story. No serious business. He opens his arms and takes anyone in his embrace and knows who is asking for what. To quote a few examples, here I go. Knowing that I'm not consistent with my spiritual practices, he has worked on me and made me do all the practices through my friend acting as the conduit of energy flow. She remained as my neighbor for 3 years till I recovered completely and has now shifted away. I take it as a sign that I am now fine. Hence, the conduit has been withdrawn from proximity. Mohanji graces many households with his footsteps, and I have always wished the same for my household. Since the likelihood of physical footsteps is bleak, he appeared in my meditative state, sitting right in front of me on the sofa, and later merged into the frame of Sai Baba, which I have in my drawing room. I have seen him as tall as a mountain while walking, taking a dip in the hot spring in Badrinath. He has appeared when I prayed for my mother in law, who was hospitalized with severe Parkinson's disorder and hallucinations. She has miraculously recovered to take care of herself. Very recently, I got a chance to meet him at the consecration ceremony of a Sai temple by a Mohanji disciple in South India. While Mohanji was standing near the homam and was flanked by people all around, I had shut my eyes and was silently sending prayers to him to help a school friend of mine who had misunderstood me and was going through a lot in her personal life. Tears had started to roll down my eyes when my friend patted me on the back and directed me to look at Mohanji as he wanted me to look at him. He smiled at me in acknowledgement, and I was left smiling back at him. I immediately realized it was a signal that he had heard my prayers. My friend is now a trained Maitri practitioner, and she continues to guide me and clear me with Mohanji's energy. There are many instances wherein I have felt his presence and grace. I have now come to believe that suffering is a sign of clearance of past baggage and that there is sunshine behind the clouds. Guru helps to speed up the process. My heartfelt gratitude to Mohanji for coming into my life at a time of great need, offering unconditional love, healing, and protection. Jai Mohanji. You're on mute, Malati. Yeah. Isn't it a beautiful story?
That was really wonderful, wonderful, Rekha ji. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's an amazing story because I know this person and I know what this person went through and how she was healed in 3 years. It was amazing. Every year she got the attack and it was milder, 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 and finally it left her.
Amazing.
Amazing how Mohanji works. And she didn't even go for Maitri, I think, at that time. Yeah, she didn't. That's how Mohanji takes care. It's just remember him and he's there with you, isn't it? Oh,
Once have a severe stomach pain. Just for a second, oh my God, Mohanji, I couldn't bear this pain. I thought only once. Instantly the pain went. But actually, I don't feel that much comfortable. I felt like I should send my pain to him. So I just told him after that incident, I told him, please don't take any pain. If there is anything, should go from me. Let it be something good and not at all pain. I have told him, you should not take my pain. Let I suffer my pain. I don't want to give my pain to him.
so much, so much love you have, but he's a guru. He knows how to take care, isn't it? He knows what to do, when to do, how to do, and he will not, he will not interfere with your karmic thing also. So he knows what to do. Welcome, Valslama. Good to see you. We were actually reading two stories today. So both the stories were on healing. So those of you who like to listen to healing stories are my three stories. You can refer to it in our Guru Leela Volume 3, Grace That Heals. So there are many, many instances of healing that's happening globally every time and through our 425, actually, 425 Maitri practitioners work globally. So any time of the day, somebody is healing someone, and Mohanji is healing all the time, continuously. So we just need to. He's looking after us in various worlds, various aspects we don't know. The kind of healing that we get and how he raises us up towards our own evolution. So thank you, Mohanji, for this. And and again, Maitri is such a beautiful tool. Although we as practitioners don't do anything, the way he uses us as instruments and the miracles that happen, it's mind blowing actually. If not for Mohanji, I don't think, any of the Maitri sessions would really work. So that amazing it is. And he he's always doing things. I'm sure you'd have read many of the Guru Leela books and stories where Mohanji has done, just sitting in his room, healed many people. In fact, people have heard him singing songs to children. So many things he has done. It's amazing how he works continuously, 24 hours, 365 days he's working. And that's why he's always telling us we are short of time. We should rush and do things more.
Yeah.
So yes, that's the beauty of Mohanji, the grace of Mohanji. I don't know. It's something we cannot understand, isn't it? We just can't understand Mohanji. We just have to accept and flow with him, knowing that we are holding his hand and he won't let us go. It's really amazing.
Mm.
In fact, today is actually Achan's 10th day of his transition. And yeah, today also I was thinking about Monji and Achan in the morning. So everything happens as it should. Yes. So today we had lot of stories. There are two stories, Valsalama, about
Yeah,
the Maitri stories. Two Maitri stories we had. We read
madam, you are
today.
giving Maitri, na?
Yeah, I
You
do
are
Maitri. I do
how
Maitri.
much
I'm a
you
Maitri
charge?
practitioner.
How much you charge?
I'll tell you. I'll call you and tell you that.
Okay,
Okay. We are on
okay,
YouTube now. I'll call you.
okay, okay.
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 So this is how nice it is getting the healing from Mohanji, and Maitri is something amazing. The kind of miracles that happen through Maitri is just, I don't have no words. I have no words to describe it. Okay, so even yesterday and day before, I was doing Maitri for a couple of people, and they're both in a similar situation, but each one was so different. So different. That's how it is. Similar situation, but I'm doing for two different people, and the experience for both were very different. The
That
kind of
depends upon
cleansing,
the people, na? Depends
exactly.
upon.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how it is. So I think we've read two stories today, and
Yeah,
next week onwards, we are going to be premiering some nice videos for the next 3 weeks in February, leading up to Mohanji's birthday. So
yeah.
y'all can watch that video and enjoy it on Mohanji and I YouTube page. The link will be shared on Mohanji and I Facebook page also. Okay,
Okay.
so you can click on that and then watch
Yeah,
it
yeah.
on YouTube. Lovely, lovely interviews and experience sharing for the next 3 weeks. So you can watch
Three.
it and enjoy it.
Okay, you are
Next three
going
Sundays.
Prayagraj.
Yes,
Prayagraj
I'm going. Yeah, I'm
when?
going for Mohanji's birthday.
Birthday.
Regarding
Last year we have attended.
Sorry?
Last year we attended in Ganeshpuri, na?
Yes, yes, you attended last year, correct.
This year my leg has problem. That is why I can't go. Prayagraj.
Ah,
We have to
mm.
walk.
You connect with Mohanji Amma, Prayagraj will come to you.
Okay.
Isn't it? Mohanji is there. He will bless us all from there.
Yeah.
And I'm going only at the end for Mohanji's birthday. That's it. Okay.
my myself had a wonderful experience in Shirdi this time. This
Thank
is
you.
a wonderful one. I feel very much light. Before I have, as I have mentioned, I have got lot of abdominal issues and also thyroid issues. One by one, gradually, I got tremendous relief. First, the abdomen issues, I feel very light now. Next, as I told you, I got the same pain sensation which I got many years before due to my past some traumatic childhood experiences. Now everything has gone. I felt the same. I got the same pain. I was first terrified that whether I'm gonna have a second attack like that. But later I felt only my friend, Kamali told, see, ma, your voice, there is a change in your voice. I feel a stability in it. Only then I noticed, yes, there is a change in my voice. Thank you so much.
Mohanji, you have to thank Mohanji because
Mohanji, Mohanji and
every
you.
every Maitri, whether it's a group Maitri or an individual one, his energy is flowing, isn't it? Even for the group Maitri, I went and sought his blessings, and he did give me his blessings. So before the
Amazing.
group Maitri in Shirdi, Mohanji did bless it. So he was there. So everything happens as it should. Right. Thank you, Malati, for sharing that also. Because yes, Maitri, whether it is group Maitri or individual Maitri, it does wonders. We need to have that faith. That faith is enough, and everything is taken care of. Okay.
Okay.
So let's we'll meet again soon, I think. But for the next 3 weeks, we'll have the recording of these interviews, and you all can watch it, and then we'll meet online, of course, I'm sure, very often. And otherwise, I'm available on phone, so you all
Okay.
can always call me. Okay. Thank you for
Okay.
attending.
Thank you.